It's February 5th. Do you know where your tax return is? This is my annual reminder to everyone that there are no awards for finishing first when it comes to filing your tax return. I like to keep medals on the wall behind me. There's even more off screen this way, but those are for running races. I do Spartan races, those kinds of fun things. They're not for getting in line first to the IRS. And especially in a year like 2025, where there is so much talk about potential tax law changes, that's all the more reason to not be in a rush to get everything done. Now, on behalf of your tax preparer that you work with, I would like to remind you that that also doesn't mean that you should ignore your tax preparer or you should ignore the tax filing requirements until April 15th. For me, it's more of a hurry up and wait situation, which I understand can be a little bit frustrating, but we're at that time where most of your tax documents should have come in, unless you're waiting for a K-1. Maybe there's some 1099s that haven't come in yet. But now is a great time to be getting those documents organized, getting them to your tax preparer, and then just knowing that there are no awards and with very few exceptions, there really are no benefits to being the first to file. So we want to get as much done as we can, have an idea of what the outcome for this most recent tax year is. And then we just want to hit pause and we want to wait and see if corrected 1099s come out. If there are any tax law changes that make us pause and say, do we need to do something different in our plan? Typically, as we talk about tax law changes, and many of the ones that are proposed right now are prospective or they're future-looking tax law changes, so it's unlikely they would go back and change 2024, but there's no guarantee on that. The tax code is written in pencil, and Congress has proven over and over again that they can do whatever they like when it comes to tax rules and the timing of those. But it's to our benefit to get organized, to get things together, and then to just wait. The tax filing deadline is not until April 15th, and so we may as well take all the time that we're given to decide what it is we're going to do. We may even get towards April 15th and say, you know what, we're going to file for an extension and give ourselves even more time. Anytime I bring up extensions, there's a couple of really important reminders. One, extensions are not a bad thing. I personally file an extension every year because I have K-1s that I wait on that are never ready by April 15th. You don't get a black mark on your IRS record. Nobody comes and bangs on your door. As long as we're doing it proactively and intentionally, we get extra time to make sure that we're filing a quality tax return and that we've considered everything available to us. The caveat to that, though, is, and this is the second really important reminder, that the extension of your tax return filing is not an extension of your tax payment. So we do need to take the time to estimate what it is we think will be due when we ultimately finalize our tax return, and we need to make that payment before April 15th. Otherwise, the IRS will start charging us underpayment penalties. The IRS is only so patient when it comes to asking for our money, and so while they'll give us more time to make sure the tax return is done correctly, still have to make that payment. It can be an easy one to miss. It can be easy to assume, well, I'm on extension, no need to worry about it. But we got to make sure that we're paying what we expect to owe so that we don't end up paying any underpayment penalties, any interest. That's a pretty terrible way to tip the IRS. So I know I've already said it a couple of times, but literally there are no awards. I have yet to hear of the award for being the first to file. The only exceptions I come across where I say, hey, you know what, maybe it would be a good idea to go ahead and push this across the finish line. Again, these are rare. Just assume that you're not the exception. Clients who have issues with who's claiming kids on a tax return as a dependent when there's legal issues involved, it can be easier to get that done so that you've claimed on your tax return. And then the other situation is if we've inadvertently or unexpectedly ended up with a very large refund that we're trying to make sure we can get a hold of as quickly as possible and let the IRS not hold on to our money any longer than possible. For most of us, the vast majority of us, statistics are all made up, but let's call it 95%. Since they're made up anyways, may as well go high. The largest percent of taxpayers are not going to be at an advantage to race across the finish line. So whether that's for your own situation or you're working with clients as a financial advisor, we want to gather that data, we want to get organized, and then we want to wait. Happy tax planning.